Hi everyone, welcome back to another edition of videos. Today I've got two games to show you. One was an absolute knockout punch for my opponent, and well, the second game was a knockout punch. I can't really knock myself out here. Oh, I got absolutely annihilated in a recent online game, which you're going to see as well. So let's have a look at both of these games. The reason I wanted to show these two games because I didn't want to feel so bad about myself in the loss that I did lose. So I thought I'll balance it out a little bit with one of my nicer games that I've played recently. So this one was on a correspondence. This was a correspondence game on chess.com. My opponent I've actually played 3 times already, and I didn't really realise it, which is quite rare for correspondence. But yeah, I've managed to have 2 wins against him. He's beaten me once. So this is going to be a pretty close game. So let's see how it developed. So I started the game with the move e4. He played c5, and I played my typical smith-morra gambit with d4. I do like playing this in correspondence. You know, I still get nice positions despite the fact that there are some nice lines that black can play. C takes on d4, c3, d takes on c3, knight takes on c3 and e6. Okay, so this is a nice move, and you often see this when you're playing against the smith-morra gambits. This move, it attempts to essentially blunt the bishop that comes onto c4 on this diagonal. So this is a very, very nice plan. It almost looks like a sort of French-like structure to sort of hold, create a solid base for black to then play his next few moves. And there's some interesting lines. This bishop may be coming out to b4. I've seen a few times. I think this is called the pin variation or something. And I think it does score quite well. I think the opening book, if I have a look at it now, apparently out of the 343 games that have been played, black has won very convincingly 56.6% on the Masters database. So quite a good line to learn this one. Okay, so let's have a look. Oh, sorry, I've gone over here. Right, there we go. Okay, so I captured back, he played e6, I put my knight onto f3, and here a6 is played again. Very nice move. So this has the idea of not only carrying out black's thematic plan of at some point playing a move b5 and maybe bishop to b7, but also a6 has another very big importance in this particular gambit line. It prevents the knight from going to b5, and this can be an absolute frustration to a lot of black players, particularly, you know, if they want to get their queen onto c7, you suddenly get all these harassing moves like knight to b5, so you've got to be a little bit careful of those sort of things. I put my bishop to c4, b5 was played anyway, I tuck my bishop back to b3, keeping it on this diagonal where it's going to be, despite the fact, you know, I've got this blunting of my bishop, it's still going to have some impact in the position, as you'll see. His bishop came to b7, he castled, d6, and here I put my queen onto e2, so I'm carrying out my thematic plan. Often you'll see the queen coming to e2, rooks coming to both of these squares along these 5. These are all kind of the best places for all the pieces in the smith-morra. But now I'm also setting up a potential threat. At some point I'm going to push e5 and try and break through black's position. And well, I was very happy then to see the next move, which was knight to f6. And now my plan of smashing through the centre can now happen. And it was interesting when I had this on the game, because in correspondence chess you are allowed to look at the opening book. And on the opening book, when I look at it now, there's 2 games from this position, only 2, but white has won 100% of those games. So that's already a very good indicator that I've already got a very good position. Oh, sorry, I've gone accidentally out of this again, sorry. There we are, e5 was played here, so I played this, which is the best move. Now, he captured here on d5, on e5, sorry. I took back with the knight, and there are actually a lot of problems here for black. Namely, it's all to do with these 2 pawns here. You might be surprised by that, because you've probably, as I explained earlier, this is a very solid setup that black has played here. But suddenly, with all of these pieces, there's a lot of piece pressure on these two squares. And well, my opponent did not react to it very well. He put his bishop onto d6. This is a mistake, and this allows me to throw in the haymaker here. See if you can find the next best move here, white to play, and have a very strong winning position. Okay, so the move is knight takes on f7. Really powerful. I'm now forking both the queen. I'm also forking the rook here as well. What can black do here? There's not a whole lot. In actual fact, when I plugged this in on an engine, the suggestion it gave to me was playing bishop to h2 with check. So sacrificing back a bishop, and here I can either play a king takes, or I can just put my king onto h1. Both are scoring very well. But let's have a look at if I go to h1. The idea of this being that you can put your queen onto c7, and okay, you start to lose a few pieces, but you can at least maybe hold out here. But it's not looking too good. In actual fact, there's actually no rush to take here. I can just put rook to e1, and well, a pretty terrible looking position. I'm about to win the rook. I'm also still threatening this bishop here as well. It's not looking good for black whatsoever. So what is black to do in this position? Well, he captured here. Oops, sorry. He captured here, thinking that he was absolutely fine. Of course, queen takes on e6 was played, thus, well, kind of winning the game here. Oh no, I thought I'd gone too far here. Right, here we go. Yes, sorry. He took here. I captured here on e6. He had to move his king to g6, and now I put my bishop onto c2. Check again. And his king kept running to h4. There is actually a mate in 1 in this position if you do want to try and find out what that move is. In the actual game, I missed the mate in 1. I just put my queen to f5 check. There isn't really anything that black can do in this position. If he tries to run his king again, queen to h3 wins on the spot. He played g5 here. Last attempt to maybe try and hold this, but of course, with two pieces attacking here, I had a simple kiss of death checkmate. A win in 16 moves. You don't see this very often in correspondence chess, particularly when both players have access to opening books. So I was very happy with this particular game. But I then played an absolute shocker of a game. But in order to show you this, I'm going to have to switch to a different website. Okay, so this is a recent game that I played in which I got basically annihilated in a few moves. So we're on move 15. Would you believe it? In 14 moves, I get checkmated. And, well, you'll see how this disaster kind of ends up happening. So I had a good position here. I was playing a Benko gambit, so I'm down the pawn, but I had very nice pressure on white's position, and here it kind of forced him to play this very passive looking move, rook to b1, which, to be fair, actually I think you do tend to see a lot in Benko positions. Here I should have played the move knight to c4. I don't know why I didn't play it. I think I talked myself out of this move because I was a bit worried about maybe queen coming to b3 and trying to swap queens off here. But this is absolutely fine. I could put my rook onto b8, after which, if there's a swap of pieces, there's just a bit too much pressure on white's position. So I'm already hitting this pawn 3 times, although obviously this knight blocking the way. If white does something like, I don't know, rook to e2, just to show you how bad it looks for white's position. So it looks like he's holding on to this pawn. I can now throw in the tactical blow. Bishop takes here. The point being, after the pawn captures back, I win the rook. So this would have given me a very, very clear winning edge in the position. So very difficult to defend this particular one. So knight to c4 was a missed opportunity. But okay, it didn't happen. Instead, I decided to add extra pressure. I put my rook on to b8 to then try and continue putting pressure on white's queen side. Here my opponent decided to start going all out against me. He put his bishop to g5 first, hitting this weak little pawn here. I didn't want to play a move like f6 because obviously this would then lock my bishop in on this square here, which I didn't want to do. So instead I put my knight onto e5. This now opens up the defense of this pawn by my king, and by my queen, sorry. And this is quite a thematic plan in the Benko. Weird as it sounds, it plays unlike other gambits, where normally you don't want to be exchanging off sets of minor pieces. But here it's absolutely fine because you've got actually a better pawn structure than white. You've only got one pawn added versus white's two. So sometimes actually exchanging off minor pieces tends to work in the favour of black. So there was an exchange here. I put my bishop to e5, sorry, and I was expecting him to play f4, but I thought it was a bit too ambitious in this position, but he played f4, and well, this would have been the point of the game where I would have won it very, very comfortably and had a very good edge in this position. The challenge for black here is his bishop is now locked in on g5, but I moved my bishop the wrong way. Here, because he's played the move f4, it's now allowed me to get onto these dark squares. So what I should have played here was, what I didn't play, is bishop to d4. This is a really good move, and there's not a lot that white can do. He has to react to the check to begin with. I'll just switch on the engine just to show how winning this is. After his king moves, you can put your knight onto c4. Now you can carry out the attack, and this break, it doesn't work. You've got enough pieces to jump in and start causing problems. But there's still a lot of issues in this position. Some things you've got to be careful of. Namely, if you take with this pawn, then there's this very nasty attack along here. But after e5, something like this, well, there's a few options that black can do here. He can capture this knight, and apparently this is absolutely fine. He's got enough support, although it looks like he's running into a pin. But f6 can be played, and this is interesting because after the bishop comes here, there's no threats of anything falling apart here because your bishop can always potentially come back to help defend. So I thought this was really interesting and very instructive. Knight takes on b2. Again, this is absolutely fine for black to play. So let's have a look to see what happened in the game. Okay, so I didn't play this. I moved my bishop back to g7. This is actually a big mistake, and I lose my advantage. It now says white has got a slight edge in the position, but albeit it's not anything too big, particularly if you're playing gambits. Being down half a centre pawn is not too bad. Okay, now let's see what my opponent did. He now pushed forward with e5. Why not? And I had to be extremely careful here. If I just simply take this pawn once again, this pawn starts running through and causes me all kinds of mayhem into my position. So this would have been pretty scary. In the actual game, I decided I made a bit of a rash decision. I decided to play h6. Just tickling the bishop a little bit. He put his bishop back, and I thought, okay, well maybe I can close off some of the pressure from his bishop by playing the move g5. F takes on g5, and I thought, okay, well I've trapped this bishop out of the way now. I then played this, bishop captured back, and I thought, okay, maybe I've stabilised here a little bit, albeit my king is not looking very safe. This queen ideas can come in, and all of my pieces are on the wrong side of the board in this position. But here my opponent really stunned me. He played it. This is the haymaker move. This is the knight takes on f7 move that was played against me. Rook takes on e5. What an amazing move. I capture back. What else can you do? d6 now comes charging in. It's just so good. Such a good move. And now My queen, I didn't know what to do with it. I put my queen onto d7. It's just, yeah, it's terrible. Bishop took here, I took back. I'm totally losing in this position. I'm down a pawn, and not just that, my king is still very unsafe, but I tried to keep it interesting. He took here on e7, and this is horrible because the bishop, this terrible bishop is suddenly really, really good in this game, and this opens up my queen to his queen, and yeah, he's about to promote on this square. I put my queen onto c6, and I fully expected this move to come in with check. This is horrible. If I take back the rook, he promotes with check again. Ugh, terrible. But instead, actually, I think he played an even stronger move, queen to g4, setting up a mating threat. I decided to set up my own mating threat. I thought, why not? Let's just see what happens. Bishop to f6 check. The best move in this position, well, I believe it's forced, is just playing king to h7, and he checkmated me on g7. Ouch. So, yeah, it serves me right for thinking, yeah, I'm good at this game. You know, I had move 15, very good looking position, and then 14 moves later, it all fell apart in this game. And yeah, you can see how badly it went. You know, this is 10 moves ahead, and I'm in a totally losing position now. And well, this is 3 moves later. Oh, ouch, ouch. And well, that's the beauty of chess. Sometimes you can deliver amazing games and you feel really good about yourself. Other times you see games like this and you go, oh, I'm not playing chess. It's too hard. Right, thank you for watching. If you like what you see, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon. Take care, bye.